Ooh, there we go. Uh, Good evening, everybody. How are you doing today? My name's Aaron, and welcome to Name of the Game, a show where I talk about some of my favorite video games, movies, all the media that's come out in recent times. Mostly games thus far, but I'm trying to get into that movie business. Everybody's doing good enough for me. My apologies for being just a little bit late, but I hope y'all didn't miss me too much. So this week has been a bit difficult for me. So forgive me if I some of the topics aren't as interesting. I didn't have much time to research this time, but I think this week I'll just talk about some of the things I've seen in general in terms of video gaming and movie news and things like that. The first thing I can talk about is that I still have yet to see Joker, the new rendition of DC's famous clown Prince of Crime. I still have yet to see it, but I did hear that Jared Leto, the who did the previous Joker in Suicide Squad, was a bit, or maybe I have that wrong. Da, 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 da. Nope, yeah, I got it right. Jared Leto. What you call? He was a bit disappointed when he found out that he wasn't going to be able to play the Joker in the next movie. He was. This was a little thing, it didn't get any real big coverage, but I thought it was interesting when he was told that when Joaquin Phoenix was casted for the part in the solo Joker movie, he was really upset, and he called his agency, and he called the music director that he'd been working with before, and he asked him to get at um what you call it, not CBS television, what was it, to get Paramount Pictures to cancel the film because he was of the idea that after doing Suicide Squad, they kind of give him the notion that he'd been promised his own solo Joker movie. So when he didn't get the part, obviously he was really upset, and it kind of came around to most people as like, it, your performance as Joker wasn't anything to really be memorable enough to warrant a solo Joker movie. And I imagine that his reaction is something like, "What? What do you mean? I did a great job as Joker." Meanwhile, in Suicide Squad, he showed up at random times, was in a one flashback, and had nothing to do with the plot whatsoever, except as a device to try and get Harley Quinn out of jail sometimes, or to bust them all out of jail. Honestly, I find it kind of interesting that after seeing his own performance, or after seeing how the movie did and how people really criticized it enough, that he was still of the idea that he'd be able to get his own solo Joker movie, especially based around the kind of Joker he was playing, which was a character that I guess in that universe, in that version of the Suicide Squad universe, he had already been doing his own thing for a while. And the purpose of the Joker movie we just saw, or that's come out recently, seems to be a kind of origin story to how he became what he was and the man who he was before. And it's also a very different take. Even in design, like the Joker doesn't look anything like the Joker we know. He still has a green hair, of course, but the face makeup is different. And he's wearing a red outfit with it's completely red and green. It makes me think that at one time Joker was wearing a different outfit when he first started out, and then as he progressed, he kind of like he came into his own with colors and things like that. It's interesting to think about. I really, really, really want to see the Joker movie for the sole fact that I've heard it's really good, and the controversy that was swarming it in terms of people were upset that it seemed to be glorifying somebody who had mental issues and glorifying this idea of a man falling into madness, and people were not happy about that, which I could obviously understand, but it's a movie for one. Yeah, it's like it's a fictional take. It's not glorifying anything because we know who the Joker is and what he's done, what kind of person he is. It's not something to glorify or be like, "Wow, that's so cool." No, it's just a take on the instead of the hero origin story, we get a villain origin story that's done fairly well. I assume. I'm gonna try and see it soon, but this whole Jared Leto being upset that he didn't get his own Joker movie thing and asking for them to actually cancel it so Joaquin Phoenix wouldn't be able to get the chance to play the part. It's very interesting to me because it makes me think like I understand some stars really want to play certain roles, but you got to think if you're really fit for that role, you know? If you're not the kind of person they're looking for to play the role of a character, you think you are, but the audience and everybody else is like, I don't know. You got to really take a step back and be like, well, am I fit for this role or am I just, out of sorts? But that's that. I actually haven't seen much in terms of, newer movies that are coming out lately that have really piqued my interest, but Joker is definitely one of them. Marvel is kind of in its uh, a honeymoon period after the success of Avengers Endgame. It's definitely lasting a really long time, and they definitely do want to move into Phase 4. They had this Spider-Man Far From Home, which I also have yet to see, but I heard was pretty decent. Um, and it seems like they're trying to wrap up everything so they can move on to Phase 4. Where I honestly don't know how they're going to top anything they've done thus far. The only thing I think they can do is either the Onslaught storyline with the X-Men, where you'll have Professor X and Magneto kind of fused together into a villain, or they go with the Galactus storyline and actually do it well this time with the Fantastic Four instead of making him a giant cloud or something stupid like that. Like they seem to want to take so many great like super villains that are huge in proportion in terms of like Galactus is planet sized and Parallax from DC is also planet sized, and then they just want to make them into clouds because I guess that's easier for them to animate or to design visually. And it's so lackluster because I think when Galactus first showed up in like what you call it, the first in the second Fantastic Four movie, you saw a shadow of him inside the cloud. Like you saw a shadow of the Galactus that we know. And it still sucked because it's like it was a flash of lightning and it was gone. It was like, why you guys obviously know what he looks like. Why couldn't you just do that instead of a giant dumb cloud? But that's as far as that goes, really, in terms of. I want to see if they can do Galactus justice this time. They didn't do Unicron justice in the last Transformers movie that had to deal with him and everything. They kind of had. He just stayed as a planet that was trying to kind of absorb Cybertron. Um, and that kind of sucked because, again, gigantic robot-sized, planet-sized robot that has the ability to devour and destroy worlds, and you bring that to the big screen in the form of a giant cloud. What? Why? Why would you do that? Why? What makes you think that people want to go watch that? It boggles my mind sometimes. And the success of those movies is speaks plenty as to how the audience feels about the way they do these villains too. So that's in terms of movies. I think that's all I've got thus far. Um, I want to see maybe what movies are coming out recently that might be different that stretch out from the superhero genre because the superhero genre has definitely taken over the box office for a plethora of time in the past couple of years. Oh, okay. Here's one I'm pretty interested in. Gemini Man, the one with Will Smith. Ah, yeah, I can actually talk about this for a second. So I was listening to the radio the other day. Funny enough, NPR was talking about with the director of Gemini Man, who was working with Will Smith to make this movie. Now, the thing about Gemini Man is that most people, when they see like a younger version of a character in a movie, they just think, oh, they use de-aging technology to do that. But the thing is that Will Smith in this movie is actually two Will Smiths. It's him acting as his younger self and him acting as his older self. But the younger one is the one that is completely he's completely CG. Like he's completely made up. It's not actually Will like acting and then them just de-aging him to being younger self. The second Will that's younger in the movie is actually him just done by computers in its entirety. And it was really interesting listening to the director of the movie talk about how he was trying to capture Will's likeness in when also having to deal with the fact that people would notice immediately if it wasn't the Will Smith that they knew because everybody's seen like all his work. A lot of people at this point have grown up with him and know his work from like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, any of the number of movies he's done, Men in Black, what you would call it, Wild Wild West, all his songs. They know him from things. They know what he looks like. They know his mannerisms, especially when he was younger. If you grew up with Fresh Prince of Bel Air, which my parents did and I did because I watched it on a bunch of Saturday mornings during the summer. It was really cool. I love that show. So everybody knows his mannerisms, the way he walks, the way he talks. And granted, it's different from Fresh Prince of Bel Air and Gemini Man because it's a much more serious movie. It's far more serious actually than the saying of Fresh Prince of Bel Air, where Will is always acting out and being goofy and stuff like that. But you can still tell by mannerisms. So when you watch the movie, you're kind of this mindset of like, okay, I know this. You go in there thinking, okay, they use de aging technology on Will. I know he's probably going to act the same. And then you watch the movie and he does act the same. But then later on, you find out that it's actually not him who's been acting. It's a 3G, it's a CG made Will Smith that's actually, been put into, what you would call it, that's been put into this movie and made to act and look like Will Smith. And it's just amazing to me that they managed to do this, and it took a long time too. It didn't take like they didn't do this in a couple of years or anything. The director, whose name escapes me at the moment, let me see. Director Ang Lee, yeah, Ang Lee, who's made a plethora of films, like some really amazing ones. He's made Life of Pi. He made Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I love. He made the 2003 Hulk. I think this is decent. Brokeback Mountain. Oh, Brokeback Mountain is a great one. A lot of those movies are just super well done, but he had the idea for Gemini Man back when he was doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Ang Lee was talking about how he was so exhausted after doing some of these movies, like he wanted to retire because he's like, it just took so much energy and time for me to do such a hit, and I didn't know if it was gonna be good enough for people to really care to go watch it. And after the fact, to find out it's a success, really just, he was distraught. So, it's really amazing to see that he had the idea for Gemini Man a really long time ago, but the technology to make it a reality didn't exist. So he had to wait. He really had to wait until they had enough technology to actually make his idea to bring his idea into fruition with being able to make a completely CGI actor and have him act in the film and copy the mannerisms and everything and also be younger at the same time. Gemini Man itself, I only got to see a little bit of the movie because it was a school night. I was trying to study, but my parents were watching it, and I was like, "Oh man, that's really cool." Um, but it was really cool. Like that first scene that everybody saw in the trailer where they're chasing each other on the bikes. It's not the first scene, I believe, but they're chasing each other on the motorcycle, and you're watching. They're chasing each other. He's faster than Will. He's stronger too. He's like being a little bit more savvy with the way he's moving, and it's just really interesting to watch because you think, wow, if they could do this with this actor, imagine what they could do with other actors. I know we've seen it before with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like even back in, I think, Terminator Salvation, they had a completely I don't know if that one was CG exactly or if they just de-aged Arnold or what they did there, but there was like a version of the Terminator that they had made that looked exactly like Arnold in his heyday when he did the first Terminator movie, and it really made you think, What? That's crazy. That's not what he looks like now. He's so much older. How did they manage to put him into his prime when he looked like a bodybuilder?" And Arnie in his day now is still plenty strong too. But it's really amazing to just see like how they managed to bring to life, or to de-age and bring back to life the people we knew from when they were younger, or from when they were in their heyday, or from what they appeared to look like in the first movie, like they did with Samuel L. Jackson in in Captain Marvel. They've done it with what you would call it. Oh man, who else have they done de-aging for? I'm trying to think. I can't. Oh man. Oh, name's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm missing it. I can't remember the movie. But they've used a de aging process before, but this thing that Ang Lee's done with Gemini Man is completely different, and it really makes you think about like what they're going to do with future movies if they choose to remake them. If they choose to kind of try and bring it back, like If they want to remake a Bond film and use, instead of using David Hayter, they use the original Bond or any of the older Bonds, or that kind of thing. Like, what are the also the ethics of it as well? Because you gotta think, like, how many actors are actually going to be okay with them using their likeness like this to plaster on different uh to plaster in different movies or even in product placement. It makes you think, like, what would you do if one day you saw an ad with sir, with Will Smith, with the younger Will Smith in the ad, and you go, wait, well, hold on a second. That looks like Will Smith from back when he did Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and he's selling me McDonald's. What? But at the same time, I'm pretty sure a number of actors would probably be against the idea of them using their likeness for ads and things like that, especially if it was for a movie ad, or especially if it was a younger them, because that makes them feel like, what, is the older me not good enough? You think people wouldn't recognize older me? Is that, it makes you wonder. But honestly, I find the idea really intriguing. I want to see where they take it in the future. I just want them to be careful, because depending on how they utilize it, they could get in a lot of trouble, or a lot of people can end up hating it. So another thing I was thinking about in terms of that is how they use it for artists too, when they do holographs and stuff like that. Like how they brought back Michael Jackson for certain performances on stage, and they use a holograph for it, or for Kanye. It's crazy, You see their likeness on the stage, everything like that, and it's a hologram, but if it looks lifelike enough, if it's convincing enough, you really lose yourself in this idea of, that's the person I knew from when I was a kid, and they're on stage performing right in front of my own eyes. It's wild. Technology is crazy. They actually, oh man, what did I see? There was an album that was going to be coming out recently. I also heard this while I was listening to NPR. I think there's a music title where they have a bunch of artists on there, and one of the names that caught my attention was Whitney Houston, and I was like, what? It seems like they're going to be taking the voice of Whitney Houston and adding it to this track for her to be singing certain songs and things like that. I wonder how that's going to work. I could look it up right now to see what's going on. I want to see. But that's what I can say in terms of Gemini Man. I gotta watch the full movie itself because I want to get an idea. I want to see for myself if it's really as impressive as people say, or if it's kind of just hearsay and I got ahead of myself. Hmm. Oh, so this article here is talking about how the person saw Gemini Man the first time and they were really amazed with the way that Junior looked in the movie, and then after they went back and saw it again a couple of days later, and they felt that Junior was more digital than anything, and how his movements seemed fake and cartoonish. Interesting. Programmed and unconvincing, as if he'd suddenly forgotten how to act. Huh. Wasn't that's a take? Jeez. All right, let me look up this stuff on Whitney Houston. What do I have for video games? Yeah, you could tell I really came in unprepared this week. This week has been tearing me apart. It's been rainy a bunch, and it's been super. It's just been super down, and it's getting to the colder weather, and I hate the cold, man. Oh, I cannot stand it. This time of year is like the worst for me. Hmm. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. I can't seem to find the story I was thinking of. Oh yeah, here we go. Whitney Houston hologram tour. So yeah, she's been gone from us for 7 years, which really sucks. Potential hologram tour or performance featuring Whitney Houston, but her estate has either denied those rumors or canceled those plans in the ninth hour. Oh wow! So they were gonna have her do a tour where she was a hologram tour of herself, but it seems like they. Oh yeah, and I see this on The Voice as well. Wow, that is crazy. They had a version of her on The Voice, where she was singing. I can't play the whole video right now, but I'm watching it and you could definitely tell it's a hologram and everything. This is crazy looking. Technology is wild. One day they're going to be able to copy all of us, and they'll have or copy the older, you know, they're going to be able to copy some people that weren't even alive and try and take their likeness and use it for things. Oh my gosh, it's so wild to think about with how the technology is evolving, what they're going to end up being able to do in terms of bringing people back or de-aging people or all these different things. It is insane. Okay, so I'm looking to see if I have anything for video games. I was watching a bunch of trailers for movies. There was a new trailer I saw in regards to a new movie for that's starring Vin Diesel, famous man from the Fast and Furious franchise. It's called Bloodshot, and I actually like the premise. It's pretty interesting. It's about this soldier who died in combat, but because he's really well renowned, they're saying, "Oh, you're one of the best soldiers we ever had, and we managed to bring you back through using this technology." And apparently, he has memories. They made him faster, stronger, better. The classic bionic man syndrome. They gave him symbiotes that he could use in his arm that like heal him instantly. Nano machines that he gets cut, you heal him instantly, and they make him a lot stronger. And he's able to take gunshots like it's nothing. Like he essentially becomes unbreakable. And he has memories of this guy killing his wife or his girlfriend or whatever. And he goes to take him out. And once he does, all of a sudden they're like, and shut him down. And he's in a loop where they just keep changing the face of the person who killed his girlfriend so they could take out a bunch of people on this list that they have of potential of targets, and they just having him implant the memories in his head of, oh, you gotta go take down this guy, I have to go take down this guy, and it's in his head. They're not telling him to do this. He's just like, I have some business to go take care of, and he goes and takes down the target. And then I guess the story is going to be how he figures out, or somebody's going to tell him, they're putting you in a loop. It's a lie, it's going to be about how they can't control him, and he's going to try and break free of it or figure out what really happened, what this organization is about, why they saved his life and turned him into a superhuman. But it's going to be interesting because he's essentially already under the control with the nanobots and things inside of him. So how is he going to break free from it? I wonder. But it looks interesting. Honestly, I'm glad to see Vin Diesel and other stuff. I think that actors branching out in terms of the movies they've done. He's done movies before Fast and Furious. It's just Fast and Furious is the franchise he's most well known for. I think he's also known for playing Groot only because you told him. I think most people, if you ask them who plays Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, you mean the guy who only says one word? I don't know, and I probably don't care. It's like, did you know it was Vin Diesel? But he also did Riddick, which was a pretty cool movie as well. It's interesting. I'm glad to see him branching out in terms of things he does. Oh yeah, I was listening to a bunch of Billy Joel. There's Smash news out there too, and also Three Houses. Smash. The only news I can think of for Smash Brothers is just how next month Terry Bogard from King of Fighters is coming out, and I'm really excited for that because I love the King of Fighters series. And there's also leaks apparently of Reimu from the Toho series, from the Shin Maho Toho series of oh my gosh, I almost said Shin Megami Tensei, but the Toho games, which are a bunch of, oh man, what are they? Hold on a second. I'm trying to think of these things on the spot. Bullet hell. Yeah, they're bullet hell shooters. Basically, a bunch of projectiles get thrown out on the screen, and you're this one little dot on the screen that has to dodge everything. And if anybody ever sees it and you get a chance to look it up, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy stuff. But apparently, the rumored main character of the series, Reimu, is supposedly going to be the next DLC at the end of what you're called the DLC pack, the one that came for Smash Ultimate. So it's maybe it's a rumor, We got a lot of rumors in regards to Smash Brothers stuff in recent months and things like that. And whether or not the people who make these rumors or do these leaks, quote unquote leaks, are telling the truth or not is always left to chance. And there's always, after one character comes out, it'd be like, oh my gosh, this leak was true. It's like, I'm starting to think that these people are just getting lucky because they'll say a character is coming out and then they'll tell exactly how he's going to come out, like what the trailer's going to be like and everything, and then they get like the trailer dead wrong. So it makes you think, were they just, you know, uh, you know, taking us for a ride, or are they do they actually know something and just trying to be a little more discreet with it so that the Nintendo ninjas don't come and strike them down? So Reimu is supposedly leaked as well. I think at this point, any character could get into Smash Brothers because Sakurai's finally made a kind of statement that as long as they're a video game character, as long as they have been in a video game or they originate from a video game. Let me correct myself, because saying they've been in a video game, that there's a lot of characters that have been in video games. You might end up seeing the Burger King in Smash Brothers before you know it. But no, if there are characters whose origins are based in a video game, they have a chance of getting into Smash Brothers, which personally I think is amazing because that just makes Smash Brothers an amalgamation of gaming history and a celebration of some of gaming's greatest icons, which is what it's always been. But it's always great to see new characters added. And Nintendo's kind of stepping up to the plate, being the MCU of the video game industry these days. It's pretty incredible stuff. So I wonder what else there is. I know when Terry comes out, I'm definitely gonna be playing that a bunch because, like I said, I love King of Fighters and I love Fatal Fury. I think actually when I first started getting into fighting games, the first fighting game I actually watched a lot of before anything else, before even Street Fighter 4, was King of Fighters 13. And this is, mind you, back before Street Fighter 5, before Tekken 7, before Dragon Ball Fighters, before any of those games were even a thought. I think the most popular games out at the time was Mortal Kombat 9, which was really recent too, and Street Fighter 4. So, and Tekken was still struggling a bit to get its way up in the scene, but it was there. And at that time, Super Smash Brothers Brawl was the game that was out. I don't think Smash 4 was out yet, but King of Fighters 13 was just an amazing game to watch. I watched the competitive scene first because I didn't know anything else about it, and I had a blast watching the characters and all the techniques and stuff like that. I had no idea what was going on, but I was really enjoying it because King of Fighters 13 sprites, they're beautiful. It's like a 2.5D game where it's 3D sprites on the 2D background. And it's so good to look at. And it's like, I say 2.5D, but I don't mean like Dragon Ball Fighters or Guilty Gear. I mean kind of in the way that it's still sprite artwork like the previous King of Fighters games, but it's like hand drawn and done so well. It's super cel shaded, and they were super expensive, which is why when the next King of Fighters came out and I saw the 3D sprites that they had, I was real or the three how they switched completely to 3D because it's far cheaper. I was really upset because I love King of Fighters 13, King of Fighter 13's artwork, and I did not like King of Fighters 14, its artwork or its art style at all. I actually hated it, and it kind of stopped me from buying the game because it looked like a PS2 game. But I really ended up, I kind of regret that decision because King of Fighters 14 is a really fun game, and probably better than King of Fighters 13 in terms of gameplay because it's a bit more balanced. But even so, when it comes to fighting games, and I know I'm derailing a bit here, but when it comes to fighting games, um, presentation is I think even more than 50% of how you're gonna grab somebody's attention with a fighting game. Gameplay and online and even like the gameplay and online comes second in most fighting games nowadays. Presentation, how the game looks, and the characters that are in the game always end up coming first because that's the thing that people see first when you drop your fighting game trailer. They don't really care about the gameplay, because they don't know what it's like yet, because they haven't played it yet, because they haven't gotten their hands on it. All they know is what the characters are in the game and how it looks. And if your game doesn't look good, or it doesn't have certain characters that are associated with that brand, unless it's an original brand, if you're doing Marvel versus Capcom and you don't have Iron Man, or you don't have Captain America, or you don't have Mega Man, or you don't have Ryu from Street Fighter from Capcom in your game, people are not going to buy it because they're thinking that you're being foolish in disregarding the popular legacy of certain characters by not putting them in this gigantic amalgamation of a fighting game you have. And I think that that's what happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And presentation is the other thing, because with King of Fighters 14, it had a lot of characters. It had more characters than 13 or 14, my bad. In King of Fighters 14, they had more characters than King of Fighters 13. They brought back a lot of characters from the older KOF games, and even some from like Fatal Fury and Garou Mark of the Wolves. They brought those characters back too to put in this edition, and it still stopped people from buying it because they looked at the gameplay and they looked at the character designs compared to the previous iteration, which was marvelous. They were like, what is this? Why would I buy this when I could easily just stick with the original version, the previous version that looks a lot better and is still just as fun? So you have to be really careful when it comes to making a fighting game about how you decide to present it, and if you really should go in the direction of 3D just for the sake of saving money, because it could definitely cost you in terms of sales. Uh, it doesn't matter if your gameplay is great, because even if your gameplay of the game is great and it could be one of the best fighting games of all time, if it looks like garbage, people ain't gonna play it, and that's the sad truth of it. And it really sucks because KOF 14 and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite both have really good gameplay. They just don't look that great. Especially in comparison with super moves and stuff like that to previous games. There's such a lackluster, there's no oomph behind a lot of them, you know? There's no real, hit effect, or there's no weight behind the punches in some of the supers and stuff, and it really, draws people away from it. It makes them go, I don't want anything to do with that. It might be my favorite franchise, but it really fell off. And on that same note, you can have fantastic presentation and fantastic, game, characters in your game. You could take a franchise that's super nostalgic for a lot of people and do it beautifully. But if your gameplay is trash, man, oh, bro, that to me, that's even worse than being like a really good game, but looking really bad. Is looking really good and looking super awesome, but playing really bad. And that's what Dragon Ball FighterZ was for me. The game looks stellar. I love it. I love the characters that are in there. I love everything it's based on. But it just it just plays so bad, man. Oh gosh, it took me a couple of months to realize it, but after a while, when I got like fed up with playing with the pretty crappy online, and with how the gameplay was of everybody just constantly hitting buttons and super dashing in your face because that was the thing to do and it works, and there's not much you can do about it in terms of defense. And now I'm finding out that in the current meta of the game, you can get punished just for being too tall of a character. If your character is too tall, you're gonna get fuzzied, which is essentially a term meaning that while you're standing blocking, while you're standing, not crouch blocking, while you're standing blocking a move, you could still get hit overhead by a secondary part of a move, because characters have air dashes, so they could hit you once with an overhead attack and then air dash forward and hit you again. And if you're not careful, or if you don't see that coming, because it's a 50-50, which means you have a 50% chance of them doing something else, or a 50% chance of them doing the thing you think they're going to do. And it's a 50-50. If you guess wrong, you get hit, and you could take a bunch of damage or even potentially die off of it in just one hit, because that's the kind of game Dragon Ball FighterZ is. And personally, it really sucks in my opinion, because it just keeps seeming like as the game's progression as the time goes on, not only is Bandai Namco and Arc System Works kind of drawing their attention away from the game in terms of character updates, balance patches, and even the pro tour that they have around the game in terms of its esports importance. They also just seem to like not care too much about the complaints of the community, and it's going to end up really sucking for them in the long run because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had the same problem, and that game ended up leaving a bad taste in most people's mouths at the very end of it because all the game became was you get X Factor and you just wallop your opponent in 2 seconds because you become super OP. And when you lose to X Factor, you feel terrible. And when you win with X Factor, you feel nothing because you feel like you cheated them of the victory. And that's what Dragon Ball Fighters is becoming looking like it's becoming to me is like Burst isn't as ridiculous as X Factor, but there are just but it's not Burst so much as it is the characters. Like GT Goku, Bardock, and apparently also Kid Buu are super dominant in that game in terms of this is the meta. If you don't play these characters, you're probably not going to win at the highest level or even at the mid level. It's really frustrating to fight. And GT Goku being a small, fast, really strong character does not help. And I will say it now, and I'll always say it. I hate small characters in fighting games. I hate small characters so much. They're so annoying to fight. They change the game completely, especially if they're good. If they are small, fast, and have a lot of projectiles, or they're able to, weave around you and getting a lot of hits and stuff like that, I hate them. I hate them. They're the most annoying thing to fight because all of a sudden you have to change up your combo structure. You have to watch out for them because they can like potentially mix you up a lot easier than you can mix them up. And all of a sudden, like half of your moves might not hit them, so you have to completely change your playstyle just to play against this one character. And it doesn't help that GT Goku is also the best character in the game, and works super well with some of the other best characters in the game. So that's my little side rant on Dragon Ball Fighters and fighting games and stuff. I don't remember what I was talking about before. I completely got sidetracked, but I guess that's fine. It's good for me to be able to talk about these kind of things. Um, da, da, da. Oh, I was talking about King of Fighters. I really, I was talking about Terry's addition into Smash Brothers. I was saying how I really love Terry because he was like the first character I played in King of Fighters 13, and how that was like the first fighting game I watched competitively, and it was great. It looked fantastic. He was the first character I played. There was this mobile app that I had on my phone a very long time ago that was KOF 13, but for mobile. And I think that's one of the few mobile games for mobile fighting games anyways, that was done super well. It was essentially like a dumbed down version of KOF 13 where but it wasn't like how most fighting games are, where it's a side scroller that you're doing to beat them up, or you're doing like multiple taps in one place to do cards and things like that. That's not what it was at all. It was really interesting how it worked because it was just like regular KOF 13. It was the same structure. It was the same gameplay style. You build meter. You're being on your opponent the same way, but the command inputs were you could either make it like the traditional KOF 13, like on consoles, or you could have it where it's easier inputs to do, but still you could do really cool combos and stuff like that. And that's how I played the game. And oh man, it was so cool. I love that game. You were able to get, I think, EX Iori and EX Kyo through just watching ads because that's how those games worked back then. And the game itself, actually, now I think they smarten up and realize, we should probably monetize this because a lot of people play it. It costs money, like it's like $2.99. But it was a lot of fun. If I was willing to fork over the cash for it now, I probably am. I definitely play it now because it was a great way for me, and that was like my gateway into most fighting games. After that, I think my dad, when he got the Xbox 360, I got Mortal Kombat 9, and I got Injustice, and I played the ever loving crap out of those games, and I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I think I delved into not Skullgirls. Was it Street Fighter? No, it was Skullgirls, and I had to get used to Skullgirls because the NRS games are an outlier in most fighting games in terms of blocking because NRS games use a button on the controller to block, where most other fighting games, Tekken, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, even the modern days or Dragon Ball Fighter and everything, but mostly like Street Fighter, Tekken, the most well known ones, Marvel vs. Capcom. They're all holding back. Like all you have to do is hold back on the control stick, and you'll block automatically, and then you can shift it around the block high or low. And I was not used to that at all because I had never played a different fighting game that required that, and I actually hated it at first because like, man, I want a button to block. I don't want to just hold back. But now I've gotten to the exact opposite where when I go to play Mortal Kombat or Injustice, I'm thrown off by the fact that I have to use a button to block, and I'm like, and this is dumb. How do you block efficiently like this? You could be holding a button, but you also have to hold the control stick to move up and down so you don't get hit low or something like that. And I find that kind of funny. I just find that a little bit funny, But yeah. Oh, I'm running out of time. Ooh, how time flies! I didn't even noticed. Yeah. But anyways, I think that's all I got this week. Hopefully next week I can come with a little bit more structured stuff. But I have fun just chatting. Screaming into the void. As I told one of my friends earlier, that's what I do here. As I yell into the void in terms of me just talking about things I like. Next week I hope to be talking about some indie games I really enjoy. The ones that I get stuck on my Steam library that I put 6 hours into and then never touch again. But there's some games that have caught my attention outside there that I've put more time into trying to finish and stuff. So yeah, I'll talk about those because those are some of my favorites. Favorite type of games, and they're also the easier type of games for me to play nowadays because they're directly accessible on my PC, and I don't have to boot up my console and everything and move around plugs and stuff to play them. They're also a lot cheaper too, just as fun as most AAA games. But that's gonna be all from me this week. If you guys ever want to send me stuff, I always say my email is abailey6 at gales.iona.edu. You can send me requests for things you want me to talk about on the show. My Twitter handle is the young chef on Twitter. Give me a follow, see what I'm all about. I'm hoping that I can, take some of this stuff one day and put it on my YouTube channel and stuff so everybody can get a chance to hear my odd ramblings. Yeah, but other than that, I'm really looking forward to Terry coming out in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's at the end of this month, probably, in the first week of November. I pray. That's what they did with Hero, and that's what they did with Banjo. I really want to get my hands on him as soon as possible because, Smash Ultimate is probably the fighting game I play the most nowadays. So I definitely want to see if maybe I can secondary him or maybe I could actually main him, Oh, that'd be so cool. It's going to be really great. But yeah, that's going to be all from me. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And anybody else who, listen to this in the future, I've been Aaron Bailey, and that's just the name of the game. I'll see you guys next time.